much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you here. So for everyone joining in, this is Camille Walker of My Mommy Style. And let's just start. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So my name is Camille. Like you said, I'm a Utah-based mom. I've been here sharing stuff about motherhood and connection online for 8 years. So I'm very passionate about family connections and feeling close to those that we love most. And so whether it's through travel or spending time around the dinner table together, it's a big passion for me. And so that's why I created Time for Us, which is a weekly journaling membership that you can do with your kids. So that's kind of where my passion has led me to, is really about creating connections, because the happiness that we develop in our life is about our relationships. It doesn't matter how much money you make, where you're from, where you're going. It's about the people you're surrounded with and what you put into those relationships. So that is what makes me so happy. So I love traveling. I love wakeboarding and snowboarding. I haven't done that as often as I would like to, but now my youngest is almost 4, and I feel like I'm getting to a space where I can like kind of start getting back into my outdoor hobbies again. But I love to hike. I've been journal writing since I was 5 years old. And so journaling and keeping memories is just a part of who I am. I love it. So thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. No, that is perfect. I've known you for like a couple of years, and I love Camille's blog. She has awesome Disney tips. I know you love Disney, just like me.
Disney fan.
And I'm so glad you brought up the journal subscription, your journal subscription. What was your inspiration behind that? Like how did you develop the activities? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so one thing that I did about 5 years ago is I started a course called the Summer Learning Series with my cousin, where we would put together activities and books and kind of curriculum, so to speak, to keep our kids engaged and having fun through the summer. And what that turned into for me was, I really think that so many of us can get lost in the screens in our home. I know mine did. And so what happened with my third son in particular is that he has some sensory sensitivities, and I could see that with him, he was getting sucked into screen time. And when he would go into that, it would affect him a lot more differently than it would my older two. I have 4 children total. And I noticed that he started talking about feeling depression the best way he knew how at 4 years old. He started talking about wanting to die and just being really sad. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? And that's when I knew I needed to take a more invested role as a parent, to really connect with him on a heart-to-heart level and take a really close look at what was going in and the time that I was spending with him and my other children one-on-one. So it was actually last summer, after going through that, developing the Screen Freeze program, and then during the summer last year, I thought, I want to create something for parents where they don't have to feel like a Pinterest mom, where they have to know all the things and be super crafty, because I really am not that way. And so I thought, I just want to create something where they could print something once a week and just be able to sit down and talk about things that matter with their child. And so that's how Time for Us was born, was out of necessity in my own life and how much benefit it had for me and my children. So I really felt prompted to open it up. And I feel like it's a work in progress every day, but it's been very transformative for the people who have done it in their families. And that just makes me so happy. If I could even just bond one family closer, like that's what it's all about. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that, because I think it's something we can all relate to right now. Like, our kids are having big, big feelings. Like, it's a little bit of a scary time right now. So how nice for them to have a way to have an outlet, right? So with this, tell us how it works. Like, is it a daily journal that you do with your kids, daily activities? Tell us what like a day would look like.
Okay, so a good example of how it works is that every family comes up with a day that becomes their time for us. It can be done on a one-on-one basis, or it can be like you're sitting down at the dinner table and you do something special. So for example, each month you'll get 2 sets of journal pages where it's like questions to ask and write down as like a parent and child, and something you can create together. But then there's also activities. One that we just did tonight and I was going to share with you is these questions that you can do at the dinner table that are different than what you typically might ask your child. And so this was for the month of April, and it came with this principle that says, April showers bring May flowers. So to give you an example of, yeah, it's super fun. So what they draw out of here is actually raindrops that have questions on them, and then we each go through and answer the questions together. And one of the questions that we asked my children tonight was, how did you calm down the last time you felt angry? And each of my children shared something that helped them to calm down. So one, my oldest, who is 12, he said, I slept. Typical. My daughter Jane said she listened to some soft music alone, and that's what made her feel better. My 6-year-old said he made a base, like a physical fort out of pillows, and spent some time alone. And that helped him to feel safe and ready to go about the day. And then Jet, my 3, almost 4-year-old, said, I created a base with Jet. He just basically copied what he said, but they played together. And so the point is to open up conversation, maybe with questions you wouldn't typically be asking and sharing with your children. And then everything that you create, you can put into your own binder right here so that it's kept in a place where they each have their own and they decorate it. And then the printables go into their own journal. So it's not always journaling, but it's things that help you to talk about things that are, and some are silly and some are more serious. Like one of the things we talked about was, what would you want to be when you grow up? And my 6, what do you dream about doing when you grow up? What do you dream of, you know? And my 6-year-old said his dream is to work at Little Caesars. And we were like, oh, why Little Caesars? And yeah, that's so neat. And he said, well, if I work there, then I can get free pizza. And I think that's something just as a 6-year-old logic, like that makes sense, you know? And it's just so cute to write that down and to, you know, have that written and saved as a family journal. So if I'm asking questions like that, I'll put it in a dinner family journal that's just kept next to the table, where we'll also do games like high, low, and did you know? Are you familiar with games like that?
Oh, yes, I am. But other people might not be. So let's go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, so one thing that we talk about at the dinner table, if we're not doing one of my time for us activities, is high, low, and did you know? Some people call it the rose and the thorn. Some people call it sweet and sour. But I like the high, low, and did you know, because it allows us to talk about the good things, the hard things from the day, and also something that they might have learned or that they're excited about that may not have come through those first 2 questions. And so each of us will start with the high, and everyone goes around and says the high. Then we'll do the low, discuss that, and then we'll do the did you know. And that, it just provides really fun conversations. And so sometimes I'll write those down and sometimes we'll just discuss them. But I like to keep a notebook by the table so that if there is something that I'm like, oh man, I've got to write that down, it's just handy, and it doesn't have to be a big production to be kept special. So
I think it's so fun that it's at dinner time too. Like I heard once, like if you want to make a habit stick, attach it to something you have to do every day. And we are hopefully being able to eat some, you know, meals with our families, and what a great time to foster that communication and connection. I love that.
I honestly feel like that's been one of the greatest gifts of this quarantine time, is that families are eating together more. Like it's putting a reset on that family time where we're like, we don't have to run to soccer games. We don't have to be all over the place. Like it's put a new emphasis on that family time that has been forgotten. So that's been really special.
Oh, I love that so much. I want to go back to something that you said at the beginning I think I heard you say that you started to write in your journal when you were 5. That is so fun.
I did. I even brought some examples.
Oh, I love it. Good.
So it's funny because like in school, I wouldn't consider myself this prolific writer. Like I wasn't known for my works, but I realized that the love of writing has always been within me. And who would have thought, like I became a blogger, which is writing and sharing and teaching and all of those things. But when I was 5 years old, I started in a Montessori school. Are you familiar with Montessori? That
Yes.
kind of approach? Yeah. Okay. So in this school, I was actually taught by teachers that were from Guatemala. And so I was learning English and Spanish. I wish I could speak them both beautifully now. I cannot. But one of the things that I started there that transitioned and changed my life forever was journal writing. And they started us at 5 years old. And so that's another thing that made me realize we can start. And this hutch behind me, this is my messy bedroom. There's a hutch right there. I opened it to grab some of my journals out. I have nearly 30 journals that are in there from my life, which is kind of ridiculous.
No, it's awesome.
Oh, thank you. But I just grabbed some of these, and I know from looking at the cover, like this was in junior high. This was one I had, I think, in 6th grade. And I can just look at the cover and remember because I would stick. So this journal, for example, was when we picked up my brother from Ireland from his mission. And so whenever I would have like a special event or somewhere I was going, rather than collect a little knickknack, I would try to find a special notebook that would then become my journal for however long. But there are treasures in here that mean so much to me, like ticket stubs and cards from people and pictures from the time that I was writing. And I regret, or I wish, I mean, I'm journaling in a different way now, like through social media and Instagram and things like that. But there's something magical that happens when you put your own pen to paper where you can be more honest and raw and sort through your thoughts. And I just, again, recently started a traditional journal again because I missed it so much. It just means so much to me. And I feel like it can be our own therapy in ways that writing on social media can't. Because as much as you want to be honest and unfiltered, it's filtered because it's social media and anyone can read it or interpret it however they might. So having a paper to pen or a journal of that's just your own is just so special.
I love that. 30 that is so good.
Yeah.
And I love how you thought, well, I didn't really consider myself to be a writer, so I have another question for you. Would you consider yourself to be like a family historian or would you consider that family history?
It's funny that you say that because if there is ever a debate among my siblings or parents or anyone about a certain thing that happened when or who said what or whatever, they look to me as the expert because they'll say, well, I'm sure Camille wrote about that. You should ask her because I have such a better memory if I write it down. But truly, I guess I am because I wrote everything down. So my family certainly considers me the family historian as far as like our own nucleus, small family goes. I don't know how much like going up into the past, which I'd like to dig into more, but definitely for my lifetime, I think so.
Yeah. Well, and going into the future, your descendants won't have to search for stories because you have 30 journals to pass down to them.
They'll have to filter through nonsense, but yeah.
Well, that's okay. I would have loved to have a journal like of my grandmother when she was in junior high, like that cute Mary Englebright journal you had. That is so fun. And like I think about, everyone's talking about like, oh, the Spanish flu in 1918, and I wonder what it was like back then with your journals and with those awesome notebooks you have for your kids. Like you've preserved it. We know your descendants are totally going to know what it was like back then. So I love it. So good.
Thank you. Thanks.
Let's see. So did anyone in your your past family, did they ever journal? Do you have any like ancestor journals, or are you the pioneer? Are you the one starting the journals for your family?
I wish I had more. I do know of some stories that have really meant a lot to me. My father is an incredible storyteller. He's really funny and engaging and wonderful. And I have said to both my parents, you need to write these memories down, because if you do not remember them, or if you don't write them down, I don't know them well enough to repeat them. And so it's funny you should say that, because I've actually been kind of getting on their case now that they're retired and have a little more time.
Yeah.
But one story, if you want me to share one, do you want to hear a
Yes,
story
go
in
ahead.
particular? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So my father's father grew up in a family with 12 children, and they lived on a farm at like a ranch. And my father's grandmother was just like this tough chick. Like, she was super cool, where she would like race on horses and pick up napkins off the ground riding a horse, like just crazy stuff. We're like, how can that even be real? But it was. And she even delivered my grandfather, her son delivered my grandfather, because the doctor couldn't get there fast enough. And it's things like that where I'm like, man, she was like, I shouldn't say that term. She was really cool. And so it's funny. I don't swear, but you would call her like a baddie. Like, she was really cool. She ran the farm. She would like shoot rattlesnakes with guns. And if people came around or gave her a hard time, she like had to hold her own, because her husband wasn't around a lot, and she's wrangling these 12 kids. And I just loved that grit and that determination was in her. And to just like think, oh, like a little bit of that is in me, because I get that from her, just like to keep going when things get rough. And her ancestry as well, going back even farther, is the Mormon pioneers, which of course we know they had incredible tenacity, and they were actually in the Martin Handcart Company, which some of the stories there are really touching to me. And it's some good stock, good stock of people where you're just like, how did they get through that and maintain what they did? And especially when they were telling the story about trying to get the doctor before this baby came. So my grandfather's brother got on the horse, tried to go get the doctor, came back. The doctor didn't come in time. And so he literally delivered this baby in the living room. And she just handled it. Like, it just is so cool. I don't know. So stories like that you just hear and you think, man, that's pretty awesome. So that's one that sticks out to me that really means a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And you think of everything they went through. And I mean, I think stories like that totally help us, and, can help us be like, okay, if she gave birth in the living room and was picking up a napkin and she rode on the horse and fought off the bad guys. Yeah, with a shotgun. Like, okay, we can do this quarantine thing. Like, we got this. We can do this. I think I have like 2 more questions for you. Now, I was wondering how you have, I know as a blogger you have a community online. I love your Instagram. You have
Thank you.
like all of your the memes with the message board. I read those and I'm like, oh, I can totally relate. That is what is going on at my house. So I was wondering, like, how connecting with others online has been helpful to you, or ways you found to connect online during this whole social isolation.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting with social media to me, because there are so many ways that it can be used for both good and bad, right? We know that. And I think especially with Instagram, we have to be careful what we ingest with comparison, and what we're bringing in, images, words, they all affect us. So something I try really hard to pay attention to is putting up relatable content that people can look at it and say, me too. No one's perfect, and everyone does things a little differently, and it's okay to laugh at ourselves and give ourselves some grace. And so I think that allowing that kind of space and thinking of content like that would help to encourage people has has been really fun for me. I know that there have been definitely times that I want to think about what to write or to share, and I'm sure you can relate to this because you do the same thing. You want
Yeah.
it to be a space where people feel inspired, and it can, as a creator, it can be easy to get down on yourself too, of like, oh, it's not good enough, or I'm not, what I'm sharing isn't helping anyone. So the times that I've been the most vulnerable, in whether it's sharing on stories or a post or whatever it might be, and someone reaches out and says, thank you for sharing that today. I was having a really rough day, and that was exactly what I needed to hear. Like, it's good to know I'm not alone feeling crazy, you know, because it just feels good to know that you're not alone. And so I'm really grateful that I can contribute to that, and that I have a community around me like you, that I know that it's a safe place, you know, and that it's not, it doesn't have to be scary or full of hate. Like, we can support each other and see each other and say, it's okay, tomorrow can be better. And sometimes it's hard to do that because we know that the pretty sometimes gets more engagement, or you think that's what people want to
Yeah.
see. But when I share the raw and the ugly and pictures of my face like this, you know, people are like, yeah, I see you. That's me, you know, like, so that feels good when that happens and people feel like they can relate. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I think we need so much of that right now. We need the connection. We need the good. We need the me too. And so, I would, for my last question, what would you say? I mean, I love all the stories you've shared. I loved hearing about your sweet boy Jet. I'm sure a lot of kids are feeling like that right now.
Mm-hmm.
I loved hearing about the grandma story and how you started journaling at a young age, and it's just been neat to see how much that has impacted you and your family. What advice would you give to a mom who, you know, maybe hasn't journaled, like the reluctant journaler? Like, what advice would you give to her on how it could help her family?
Yeah. I love that question, because what I love right now is that it doesn't have to fit a certain mold. If writing in a paper journal like this doesn't work for you, try something else, because there are apps online. One that I really like is called Day One, or One
Okay.
Day.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Day One, where it will give you
Yeah.
a prompt. And one thing that I prompted myself to do is to write down one thing that was funny or profound that a child said, and it will actually ping my phone. And so I don't have to like think about it. I just say, oh, that was really funny. Jensen put on a Superman cape today and said he was Superman, or whatever it might be. Just make it, even one sentence a day can be profound. That's 365 things in a year. But even if it's just one thing a month, like, just start small and be forgiving of what it is that you can offer or what you can do. And maybe you want to do more video journaling. And I think video is the way that we're going to be consuming history more in the future. And so my kids almost get sick of me sometimes, where they're like, oh, mom, another picture, oh, video, or whatever. And I'm like, you say that, but we had a wedding memory that I, and today, from 3 years ago, and it was a quick little montage of like pictures and videos that I had done through the day, and it turned into just this really wonderful memory. And I said, see, this is why I have my phone out and I'm taking the video and photo, because it's easy to forget. And when you see it again, it makes you so happy. And so if it's not the written word, take video, take photo, you know, caption one thing a week, or do a recap for the month. Like, it could be any way that works for you, but just start. Because I think sometimes we stop ourselves because we want to be perfect. I know I do that. And any step forward is progress. And a lot of times it's the movement or the progress that urges the motivation. You know, that's the motivation you need, is just to do it. And perfection is the antithesis of just getting it done. Like, done is fun, do it messy, and just start writing it down. Start taking those pictures or those videos. And I think more than anything, you will treasure them, especially, you know, a year, 5 years, 10 years, however long from now. You'll be so grateful that you started today. Even if it's just one sentence a week.
I think that's such good advice. Just simple, digestible, whatever works for your family, whether it's the dinner table or in the car, you know, whatever works for your family. Now, I want to, could you tell people like where they can find your blog, how they can find this awesome Time for Us subscription? Yeah.
Yes, I would love that. So I am at all social medias at My Mommy Style. That's MOMMY. And I just started doing TikTok. So if you want to come over there and hang out with me, I'm making a fool of myself and just sharing really fun, relatable things. But yeah, so if you want to join the subscription, it's $5 a month. You get one printable activity every single week. So it just comes in like a lump all together for the month. This next month, what I've created is actually starting a new kind of like a chore list assignment schedule and how to do that with your kids, whether they're younger or older. As we go into summer, I think we all start thinking, okay, how do we restructure our day? How do we keep a routine that's like, you know, we're getting stuff done, but it's not too strict, it's flexible. Anyway, that's what I worked on for this month of May. And you can find all of that at shop.mymommystyle.com. And you can also find the screen freeze there as well. Oh, she said it's so good.
The Mommy Genealogist. It's so much fun.
Thank you.
I love that heading into summer. Like, that's usually my first thing was like, okay, what's the new routine? How do we get into everything? So that sounds perfect and amazing. And we're going to include a link to your resources too at connections-experiment.com/evidence, and then just at the bottom in our additional resources we'll have it there too, because we think it's such an amazing tool.
And I was going to say one more thing before I forget. For those of you who are watching today, I have 3 giveaways happening leading up to Mother's Day for the next few days on Instagram. So if you want to check that out, I have some beautiful, amazing things. But I also am partnering with an educational app company where anyone who is a subscriber is going to get that for free for the month. So it's like math and English learning, and they really want to help kids learning from home, and they're just really fun ways to learn from home. So if you're interested in that, you can DM me and I'll give you more details, but it's going to be some good stuff coming up. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that is so fun. I love giveaways. Giveaways are awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so fun because, I mean, I've known you for a while, but I didn't know these stories about you. And I love hearing the inspiration behind what you've created. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to everyone who joined us. We'll be saving this in our live highlight bubble. You'll be able to access it from Facebook, and we just hope everyone has a wonderful night. Keep connecting and journaling, and thank you again. We'll go ahead and sign out. Thanks, Camille.
Thank you.